Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Good evening. And then I just want to check in, just make sure my panelists can hear me. Ladies, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, perfect. And so we're going to give everyone a chance to join in. So while we're doing that, you now have the opportunity to share. So go ahead and grab your devices, ladies. We are going to go ahead and share this. So I am sharing to everyone on my page. And good evening to those that are coming in. Good evening. All right, welcome everyone, welcome. We're giving everyone an opportunity to share. So that's what I'm doing. I'm sharing with everyone. So just giving everyone an opportunity to share. And then we're gonna get going. So come on in for those that have joined. I hope you've already shared it. If you have not, then before we get started, go ahead and share it with someone. The link is there. Just click share, click it, share it to your page, or you have the option of sending it via message. All right. All right, ladies, did you get your chance to share? Or are you still sharing? You have a large contact list, so you're trying to go through your contact list. All right. Okay, so we are going to get started. Let me open up the chat. And welcome to everyone that has joined so far. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a great night. We have a wonderful group of ladies with us. And so tonight we are discussing life and motherhood. And so I have three beautiful ladies with me. And so I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. But before we do that, we always like to open up in prayer. So we're going to open up in prayer first. And then we're going to do a little icebreaker called Two Truths and a Lie. I don't know. I know we're safe, sanctified, but this game is called Two Truths and a Lie. So we're going to go ahead and do that icebreaker. And then after that, we're going to go ahead and have the panelists introduce themselves, and then we're going to get right into the discussion. So I'm going to go ahead and open us up in prayer. God, I just thank you for this evening. God, you are so good. You are so faithful. We thank you for life. We thank you for health. We thank you for strength. We thank you that we have another opportunity to gather together. And God, I'm asking that you will allow this discussion to be a blessing and encouragement to whoever's watching, that it will be enjoyable, that it will be a good night, Father God, and that you will just be in the midst of us. And so we thank you. We give you praise for doing it. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so two truths and a lie. Ladies, are you ready? All right, so who are we starting with? I don't know. I guess it can be random. So Nadine, I'm going to start with you. So come off mute and go ahead and give your two truths and a lie. And so the way this game works is you tell two things that are true about yourself, and then you say something that is not true. And then, of course, we're going to try to figure out which one is not the truth. Okay, so Nadine, go ahead and get us started.
Oh gosh. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to type out my two truths and a lie so I don't forget them. All right. So I've been to less than 5 countries.
Mhm.
Initially, I wanted to, instead of having a kid, I wanted a monkey instead. I got into a lot of trouble growing up.
Okay, so let's have Vicky guess first. And I'm monitoring the chat. Let's see if anyone. So if you're in the chat, you can put in the chat which one you think is not true. But Vicky, I'm gonna have you try to guess which one you believe is not true.
I think she's been to more countries. Oddly enough, I think she wanted a monkey.
Okay, well, I'm not letting Tasha go because she probably knows the answer.
No, which one?
But if I had to guess, I would say she wanted a monkey.
That's a lie.
Oh, you didn't want a monkey?
Am I supposed to get the answer yet?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So then that's a lie. You didn't want the monkey.
Wait, am I supposed to give you guys the answer?
yes, what's the answer?
Okay, so I have been to more than 5 countries.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody knows I got into a lot of trouble growing up. And yeah, I wanted a monkey instead of a kid. I love monkeys so much. Yeah.
You like my bestie, she wanted a sugar glider. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's like a squirrel that glides down like the walls of curtains. I was like, no, ma'am.
They're so cute. But unfortunately, Clement said no. But instead, he took me to the monkey jungle in Miami, where it's like you're in a jungle where humans are caged and monkeys are free. And so like that was what I got instead of getting a monkey. So
Oh,
Okay, that works. All right, so for those of you who are joining in, we're doing a little icebreaker because we're giving some people a chance to join in. So we're just doing an icebreaker. It's called 2 Truths and a Lie. So Nadine gave us her 2 truths and something that was not true. And so Vicky, you're next.
let's see. I love peanut butter and vanilla. Those are like my favorite flavors. Let's see. I did want to be an ice skater when I grew up because I saw the French Black Star be an ice skater. And I wrote a book at the age of 6.
That's
He was really passionate about the first 2. Like,
yeah,
she
I don't
really
think the
loves
peanut
peanut
butter one is
butter and vanilla.
What are your guesses?
I think
Peanut
the last
butter.
one is false. The last one is false.
No, I think the first one is false because she was too
I
passionate
think-
about it.
I think the first one is false.
Are you allergic to peanut butter?
I absolutely hate peanut butter.
Yeah.
And my husband loves it. I don't understand why people like it. Reese's Cups, oh my goodness, it grosses me out. But I did actually write a book at the age of 6 for a contest, and it was on display for like a competition. And I did really want to be an ice skater. I used to watch ice skating all the time.
Okay.
See, I was like, oh, I just hate peanut butter. And I hate vanilla because I know you look like
Yeah, vanilla's in a lot of things. So I don't know how you hate vanilla, but okay.
if it's mixed with something, but when somebody like gives choices of ice cream, it's always like vanilla. And I just, ooh.
All right. So for those of you who are joining, we are doing an icebreaker. So it's called 2 Truths and a Lie. So it is now Natasha's turn. She is going to give us her 2 truths and something that is not true.
Okay. I was born in a car. I learned how to swim when I was only 17 months. And I used to wet the bed all the time when I was younger.
All right. Nadine, you can't guess. Feel free, panelists, those that are in the chat, feel free to guess. Vicky, I'm sorry, I got to pick on you again. I'm going to have you guess which one is not the truth.
I don't think she used to wet the bed all the time when she was young.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to guess I'm letting Nadine go last because she's sister.
And she knows.
Okay, so my guess is, we're from the concrete jungles, as they call it, for the Bronx. But and I know you guys are from Brooklyn, so and not saying that people don't know how to swim in Brooklyn, please. I'm not saying that. I don't want anyone dropping anything in the chat saying just because you're from Brooklyn doesn't mean you can't swim. But that is my guess. I feel like, and Jasmine said, Jasmine Bryant, she said the swimming is a lie. So Nadine, go first. You probably know, but if you don't know, tell us what you think.
I mean, Jasmine's practically like a sister, so that's kind of cheating too. But I can guarantee you that she did what the best. She used to pee all over me.
Okay, mute.
Okay, let me mute her. I can mute her for you. I will mute her for you. So I'm guessing the swimming. So the swimming was the lie.
I did not learn how to swim when I was 17 months because I still don't know how to swim.
Oh.
Okay, so I think everyone has learned a little bit about our panelists. Victoria does not like peanut butter. She does not like peanut butter. Doesn't like vanilla. Do not give her any vanilla ice cream. And so when we hang out, we're gonna go get some flavored gelatos.
Yeah.
And Nadine, she is a traveling girl. She loves to travel. And she's been to many countries. And don't try her, try Jesus. Okay. I learned from that. And then Tasha, we're gonna pray your strength in the Lord. We're gonna make sure you learn how to swim.
I would.
All right, so now that you guys know a little bit about the panelists, it's only right that we actually officially introduce them. So I'm not going to call in anyone. Whoever feels like they're just ready to go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, whether you want to tell us a little bit about your profession. Of course, this is life and motherhood. So how many children do you have? So just go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself. I guess I'll start with Tasha.
All right, I was about to unmute myself. So my name is Natasha Jackson, and I have two beautiful children. Jasmine is 12, and Jace is 5. And I am an attorney, and I I don't know. I think that's pretty much it.
That's good enough. So Tasha, 2 children, and she is an attorney. Excuse me. All right. So I guess Victoria, go ahead and go next.
Well, I am Victoria. I am wife to a wonderful man named Alex. I have 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl. A boy is 8. He just turned 8, named Jalen, a little girl named Alexandria. She's a mini me. She's 4. I am a small business owner. I resell clothing from vintage to fast fashion, and I'm also a stylist.
Okay, so for my next photo shoot, I don't want to make it seem like I do photo shoots often because I do not, but at least I know who to contact when I'm ready. Okay.
I got you.
And then Nadine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nadine Embry. I live in Jacksonville, Florida. I am an educator and a mom of a beautiful 3-year-old girl. Her name is Clementine, named after my husband, Clement. And yeah, that is it.
Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and get right into this discussion. And I said, oh my gosh, so many questions. Which question do I start with? And I really didn't know. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start with this one. Let's keep it easy. And so the first question is, and I want to say to those that are joining, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. So that's 1. And 2, if you have not already shared, please go ahead and like and share. Okay, so the first question that I'm posing to the panelists is, what's one piece of advice you wish someone told you before becoming a mother? And anyone.
Okay, I was gonna say I can go ahead and start. I wish somebody told me not to have kids. I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, I wish somebody told me to, I think, give yourself grace Because I think we forget that we're growing, like as our kids are growing, we're also growing and we're learning just like them, especially with your first child. And honestly, I feel like each child is different. So I feel like with each child, it's like starting over again. So definitely give yourself some grace and not to get caught up in, all of the, I guess now I feel like is more of a thing where people feel like, no screen time for kids. Everything has to be organic. You have to make food from scratch and everything else like that. Just don't get caught up in it. Just do whatever works in your house and whatever makes you happy.
I like that. I like that. I think that's great advice. Give yourself grace. That is a good word. Okay, so someone else, what do you wish someone would have said to you? What advice do you wish you would have gotten from someone?
I would say to not set expectations of what you think motherhood will be, of what you think it will be like, because like she said, like Natasha said, you don't know what kind of child you will have. And certain children require certain types of love, certain types of care. So don't set your expectations as to thinking quote unquote normal. That you may have a normal child, or you'll be like, I really had this idea that I was going to have a child and I was going to say, sit down, Timmy. And, Timmy would sit down and that would be the end of it. I was in La La Land. I don't know. I just had this idea of that. Also, to know that God has chosen you to be their mother. So whatever you see fit for them and how to raise them, how to love them, how to nurture them, he has equipped you specifically for them because he gave them to you. So don't doubt that, because I think as a new mother, I did struggle with that a bit. But then I had to realize, well, he gave me, the babies. He didn't give them to anyone else. So
That is so good. And I want to pause there and say, because I'm guilty of it, I want to pause there and say, when you're out and you see someone's kid giving someone else trouble,
Mind your business.
thank you. I was going to say it nicer than that, but since you said it, I'll repeat you. Mind your business, because honestly, you just never know. And I'm guilty of that. I used to be the one to say, oh, bad behind kids. I used to be the one to just look and say, oh, they're not doing their job and they need to do better and they need to discipline their children. And I've learned as you get older, you learn. So I will say I was very ignorant and naive. But as you get older, you learn, one, you don't know what's going on. And two, sometimes the parent has tried everything in the book, but there are other things going on. And so be careful how you speak on someone else and their child, and give, like Tasha said, not only give yourself grace, but give others grace.
Yes, I agree. And I agree with both of you. Give yourself grace. And I'll also say, like, run your own race. Don't try to be like anybody else. I know a lot of times when we look on social media, everybody posts like the highlight of their lives on social media. And sometimes you're trying to keep up with stuff that they're not even keeping up with. So just kind of run your own race. Because I know sometimes I'm like, for example, like Tasha's talking about, like, oh, you may see like this parent giving their kids organic food, cutting their strawberries and putting it in their lunchbox. And you're like, man, I just threw them a pack of goldfish in there and sent them off to school. And you start feeling like guilty, like, oh my God, like I'm an awful mom. And you start comparing yourself. So it's just like, run your own race. Like, you're a good mom. You're doing well at what you're doing. And obviously, if you saw the not so good moments of some of those highlight reels that they're posting, you'll realize, okay, maybe I am doing a good job. So don't try to compare yourself to anybody. Comparison is the thief of joy. And so sometimes if I see myself getting like that, if I start feeling inadequate or something, I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and log off Facebook or Instagram or whatever else real quick and go ahead and pray or something, if I sense myself starting to feel like that.
I like that. Don't compare yourself, because you never know what's going on behind closed doors. And it's true, we are definitely living in a day and age where people love to put on a good front for social media. So that is so good. You guys said so many good things. Give yourself grace. Don't God has chosen you to be their mother, and he's equipped you. And that is so good, because even though I'm not a mother, I've heard mothers express that they feel sometimes inadequate. and they just feel like, "Ugh, I'm not doing enough," or am I really a good mom? And so such good points that you guys brought up. And so since you kind of mentioned some of that stuff, I guess the next question would be, what are some of the challenges you faced, or maybe you haven't faced them, but maybe you've had friends or ladies that you've heard discuss the challenges that they face with motherhood? So go ahead, and that's open to anyone. What's some of the challenges that you are facing, or other women that you know are facing?
I can start on this one. I would say one of my biggest challenges is like really finding a balance. So, like, I grew up in a household. We didn't really have a lot. We weren't like the wealthiest kids on the block. All my clothes were hand-me-downs from Tasha, Natalie, and Nicole. And so like I made a commitment, like I'm giving Clementine a better life. She's not gonna have to ask for anything. I'm just gonna throw everything at her, throw toys at her, whatever she wants. And so like it requires a lot of working. And so like I made up in my mind that I want to give her a great life, that I want her to live an easy life and store up a lot of wealth and everything for her. But that requires me, being gone, whether it's being gone for school or work or conferences and stuff like that. So I think one of the struggles, my biggest struggles, is like finding a balance, making sure that you never get so caught up in giving them a better life to the point that you're not there. You're not there, and they get frustrated that you're not there. And recently I went to the TD Jakes conference, and him and his wife, they actually did like this session. It's called Winning at Home. And he was actually talking about something similar, like, because, he's a businessman, he owns a bunch of houses and all this stuff. And he was saying, all this means nothing if you're winning in the world, but losing at home. And so that is just something that's important for me, to make sure that I'm not just winning lives and helping kids and saving the world, but I'm also winning at home too, especially when it comes to Clementine.
That is so good. And it's funny that you said that, because I literally saw someone send a quote yesterday that said, I think it said in 10 years and 20 years, I don't remember what it said, but say it to 20 years. It said in 20 years, the people that will remember you came home from work late is your children. So in other words, they were saying all of that stuff in the end is not going to matter. It's your kids, and just making sure that they feel the love and that they get in that quality time. So that is such a good point that you brought that up, is finding that balance. And we're not going to go too deep into that, because that kind of comes up, later on down with the questions. But anyone else, what are the challenges?
Honestly, so there's a lot of challenges, but I think one of the biggest ones for me is literally figuring out what to eat every day, like what to cook for dinner every day. And I mean, I think it probably sounds funny, but to me, like, that's like one of the biggest stressors. Like when I pick Jasmine up for school, she's always like, what's for dinner? What's for dinner? And every time she's asked me, it literally gives me so much anxiety. But to me, I think that's like one of the most challenging things, is that, it's not just like I'm responsible for me. If I want to eat dinner today, I can. If I just want to eat cereal, I can. It's like you have other human beings who are literally depending on you for survival. So that is definitely one of the biggest challenges for me, is literally like feeding my kids.
And that is real life. That is real life. Seriously, anyone who has to cook and prepare meals, that is real life. It can be time consuming. And so that's real life. Victoria, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
I would agree with that, to piggyback off of that, because you are the one that provides all the meals. So it's like they depend on you for so much into making decisions. And I think the challenging thing for me is decision overload. Like sometimes I get overwhelmed by making a lot of decisions. Like sometimes people will be like, well, you just have to know. Sometimes it's like, because I'm, when you run a household, being the mother, you're like a linchpin. You have appointments, and what are we going to eat? Like I have 3 people who, what are we going to eat? Like they look to me to manage that. And part of that, I struggled with like identity. Like when I became a mom, I felt like that just kind of engulfed me. Like I had to make sure that I took care of these 2 small people who depended on me so much. And, they're children, they're babies. So, they are going to take because that's what they require. They don't know, they give love and they give so many things, but it's up to you to take care of them. And so I really had to just like learn to kind of hone in on my identity in Christ and like remembering that I am an individual. I'm not just somebody's wife. I'm not just somebody's mom. Although I have to make these decisions for people every day, that I need to make sure that who does God says I am? Who does he say of what I can have? Like remembering to rest on his promises, his protection. And that goes along with the mind. Because again, you get into a routine of decisions again doing that. So that was for me. And I used to think when people said that, like little Lifetime movies, when people used to say, oh my goodness, I don't know who I am, or I don't know about identity. I'm like, when I was a teen, I thought them people like like, how do you not know who you are? But one day you look up and it's like you do so many things for other people that require so much of you, you can forget that. So
And I want to piggyback off of something Victoria said, because I watched a movie and I can't remember what it was, but it came out a few years ago in the movie theater. And it was a really good movie, but it was about that, about your identity in Christ. Because I think a lot of us, we boast in, what our careers are, or, that we have kids or whatever. And then it was saying, well, like I'm a mom. Okay, well, what if, God forbid, God took your kids from you, or I'm a wife. What if God took your husband from you? I'm a lawyer. Well, what if you lost your license? What if, it has to be something beyond that. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're a child of God above everything else. Like you can't let any of that, I guess, surpass that, because God gives and God takes away. So you definitely have to remember who you are, after you're married, after you have kids, after you go out into the world and achieve whatever goals you have. But anyways, I thought about that movie when you said that, Victoria, about your identity.
So good. Thank you. So I know that, Vicky, you kind of touched on it with not losing your identity. And when you said that, it kind of made me think, I know that some mothers, because, they speak with me about it, sometimes you get so busy being a mother that, and I know a lot of mothers that have made sacrifices where they put their goals off to the side and everything like that. So how do you navigate that? Going for your goals, but being a mother, seriously, because there's some that feel guilty, I need to put it off. And then there's some that say, I'm gonna do it, and it's going to be tough. How do you make that work? Because all of you are mothers, all of you have your degrees. One, how did you do it? What advice would you give to a mother that's struggling with, I want to do it, but I need to be a mom?
I can go. Because that's actually something that I've been cognizant about, just even going through the whole process of motherhood, because I've seen it. I've watched it on movies, I've seen it on reality TV, where you would have like a mom who puts everything to the side for her kids, and she's just doing everything. And then like years later, she almost resents her kids, resents her life. Like, I gave up my whole life for you guys. And then you have some people who are just focused on work. They're working. And then afterwards they have like this regret. And they're like, I did all this and I don't even know who my kids are. And so I kind of try to be very cognizant about and very intentional about not being either of those. Somebody who's not working all the time and, not getting to spend time with my kids, or kid, I only have one, or vice versa. And so one thing, and I know this may sound crazy, but I write out a schedule. Every single day. I know my sister says, you and Claire are the most schedulingest people I've ever met. I know that's not a word, but that's what she said. But I have to. It's like, I have to be very intentional about, okay, I'm going to spend time with Clementine from this time to this time. I'm going to do work from this time to this time. Because if I don't, what I'll do is come home and just start working. And next thing you know, she's falling asleep. And I realized, oh my gosh, I didn't get to see her like that much today. So being very intentional with my time, in the time that I'm going to spend with her, and not just the time that I'm going to spend with her, but what I'm going to do with her during that time. I'm going to read a book. We're going to do some writing. We're going to read some scriptures, Psalms 23, the Lord's Prayer, just being very intentional about not just spending time, because sometimes we say I'm spending time with my kids, but we'll just be on our phones or watching TV around them. And that's not spending time. You know, you're just sitting next to them. So just not being next to her, but being very intentional about the time that I'm giving to her as well.
I like that. How do you find balance between goal getting? So same question, but I'm just giving other panelists a chance to answer it. Balance between goal getting and being a mother.
I would say that realize that you could do both. I think most of the time, sometimes you get in your mind is that I have to do one or the other, or one is going to get more attention than the other. And that goes back to remembering you are a woman, you are an individual first before you had before you had kids, and you have goals and you find a way to reach those goals. Now, you do have to be more flexible and accepting that it may take you longer to reach them. You may have to, when they go to bed, work on stuff afterwards, or like me, like at night bedtime, I have reading time and prayers with my kids. And my kids see me a lot. So a lot of the things I have to do is when I want to take business trips, like I schedule them every couple of months. They're business trips and mommy trips, so that I know it's time away and it's time that I can work on content or sourcing for my business, or when I know they know that I have like a show, because I do live shows. I like when I get them ready in the morning, having conversations with them, asking them about school, if they want to talk to, me about anything, but remembering that, okay, there was this place I wanted to go to. It was Pennsylvania, and I wanted to source. So I had to make time for that. And just remembering just that, like she said, to have balance. I love that you schedule. I absolutely love that, Nadine. Like, people may think that's crazy, but it's so important to do that, because again, we need to be intentional in a lot of areas of our lives, to where, like quiet time. That's one of the things in the morning. Like, some people have morning coffee. I have to have time with the Lord. Okay. When I don't have time with the Lord in the morning, like, it sets a certain tone for me, and it's especially if I haven't gotten sleep, because my little ones have woken me up. I tend to get more cranky in the morning, or even if you can't. And that's another thing, accepting that I may not be able to. When I was single, I could sit at the feet of the Lord and like worship. I would be able to come home from a long day and just worship, study, and do things like that. But I can't do that. Sometimes I may only get 5 minutes, but I'm gonna make the best 5 minutes with my daddy that I can. And just that kind of thing, to help you reach your goals as well.
I think that's good. Tasha?
And so, definitely balance. And I obviously went back to school when I had Jasmine, and then had Jay, so I was actually in school. So I think like law school for me just looked different. Like, a lot of people were just in the libraries all the time, and I had to study at home. Like, I couldn't like be in the libraries for hours like everybody else was. So I think honestly, it's just, making a schedule, doing what works for you, and making sure you're present for them. But I think keeping the end goal in mind, because I know I kind of felt, the mom guilt at first, like, oh, I'm not as, I guess, I can't really say I wasn't as present, because I was, but I guess I'm not really doing as much for them as I want to be able to do. But I'm like, they'll understand. They probably don't understand now, but I'm sure they'll appreciate it later. And if not, I mean, I don't know. But I think that's important too, is just knowing, okay, well, I have this goal and it's only temporary. It's only temporary. And sometimes you do have to make, temporary sacrifices in order to get to where you want to get. So yeah, I think that's it.
And I'm gonna,
oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was just gonna add one more thing until like what Tasha said as well. But also I saw Christine wrote in the chat that you need support. And I'm like, yes, that's so true. Like, sometimes we feel guilty, or we don't want to like ask people for things. I know I'm like that. I know Tasha's kind of like that too, like where it's like you don't want to kind of bother other people, but bother somebody, bother your sisters, bother your mom, bother your dad. Okay, well, sorry, not you, Dada. But like it's okay to like ask people for help. And so sometimes like at first I don't want to I called it bothering, but most times people don't mind. But asking people for help and saying, hey, can you watch her real quick so I can go out and get my nails done? Or can you watch Common Time real quick so I get my hair done? I'm just kidding, I don't get my nails done. But it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to ask somebody to watch them so you can get a break. And so that's very important, having a support system and just knowing that, you know, it's okay to ask the people around you to help in giving you a break as well.
And Nadine, that's funny because I was literally going to say that. I had my phone up and I saw Christine's comment and I said, yes, support is absolutely necessary. And someone else said it too. Someone else said it requires support. So absolutely. And I heard, I think it was someone use the word. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Vicky. You want to say something?
My mouse is over here. I do have a question. What happens if you don't have the support?
Ooh, and that is so real. That is so
The thing that it is a struggle for me. Like my family doesn't live near me, and you know, it's hard with maybe people who are close. They have other things that they can do, and I'm one that I'm like, I gotta take care of my babies, you know what I mean? So I have, you know, not done certain things, you know. Of course, if my husband's not working, he can do, you know, the certain things. We kind of tag team. But that is one thing I would like to know. A question for me, like, what do you do when you don't have support? And I think for me, one of the things, you know, I love my children so much and I am very protective. So looking for outside sources is very hard for me because it's like, who do you trust? So that is my question. If somebody can answer that for me, that'd be great.
And it's funny because I'm actually, I dropped that question in the chat because I actually do want those that are watching to help answer that question. Someone said 1 or 2 days in a daycare. So basically, you know, researching some daycares that you feel would be appropriate for your child. If you can afford, have someone fly in and help support, pay for that ticket. That was my thought. But I'm waiting for come on, y'all, give us some answers. Church, someone church family. So that honestly, that's true. Church family. I don't know if big churches are better, small churches, I don't know, because I haven't went to too many huge churches, but I know that smaller churches, a lot of time they are willing to usually find someone that's willing to provide some type of support. So that was such a good response. So thank you for those comments. And Natasha, you seem like you want to add on to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I don't know what it's like to not have support because I've always had support, but I will say, like, I lived in Gainesville for almost 10 years. So I knew so many people there, like everybody grew up with Jasmine, they knew Jasmine, and there were just so many people in church who I just felt so comfortable, you know, asking them to help or doing this, and I had family there. Then when I moved to Jacksonville, like I have Nadine lives in Jacksonville, but that was it. Like, so, and we live like 35 minutes away from each other. So sometimes it doesn't even feel like we live in the same city. So it was definitely like a shock for me when I came to Jacksonville. My mom came and helped for a while too, but I did have to get out of my comfort zone because I am a mama bear too, and I do not leave my kids with anybody. You're not sleeping over, you're not going anywhere. Like, I need to know where you are, and I'm gonna have to know who the parents are before you go over there, even if it's just for a few hours. And I also don't trust a lot of people with Jace because he's a little bit different. So that was the thing too. So I did have to go through I found a babysitter and she was great at first, and then she just kind of dropped off. But I guess I would look to the chat too for some help, because I think that's probably the hardest thing, is not just finding, you know, good support, but good support who you can trust is really hard.
That's good. So we'll wait to see if anyone else answers. And someone said it's a blessing to have support, and it's true. My family's like that too, where we're a big family. We're not too far from each other, so they could say, hey, can you watch the kids? Sure. Can you watch kids? Sure. And it's just, there's just so many of us, and we just all share in the wealth. And then my mom is very hands-on, and so, you know, our family has also had the pleasure of being able to use each other. And someone said it takes a village. Someone else said, I embrace doing everything with my kids, traveling, laundromat, grocery store, etc. And so again, this may not work for you. Again, we said what works for one doesn't work for another. So I don't want you saying, oh, maybe I need to do better. No, because we all know that some kids need more attention and they could be a handful. So we're not saying embrace taking them everywhere with you, but that worked for this panelist. And I think it's great when you're able to just really have your kids come along with you everywhere. I think that's great as well. So we'll wait. Victoria, I hope we get some more answers for you. So some of the things you guys said, be intentional with your time, make sure you spend time with God, and then don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, it takes a village. And I'm laughing because my good old friend said, nah, my kids ain't coming everywhere. So she said she is not taking her kids everywhere. So that had me chuckling. All right, so you guys touched on mommy guilt, and we know that that's very real. Like you touched on, how do I find that balance? I don't know if we really need to go into that unless you want to touch on that and just encourage someone that may be going through that period where they feel a little guilty. Like some people have the pleasure. Like I worked with people that in order for them to survive, they literally worked. It felt like all day. Like I would come in, see them at work, and I would leave and come back the next morning. And I'm like, wait, how are you even here? Is that legal? So, where they just really worked all the time, and they didn't have the pleasure of being able to take time off and take their kids certain places. So I guess just what would you say to a mother that's kind of experiencing mommy guilt because they're not able to give that full attention, full time to their child, or they're trying to go back to school, or they're having to work an extra job because it's a one-parent home, or whatever the case is? Maybe the bills are just piling up, So what would you say to that mother that's kind of struggling with that mommy guilt, or having to go back to work? There's so many things, studying, there's so many things that could cause mommy guilt. So what would you tell that mother?
So I would say it's not the quantity of the time, it's the quality of the time. So like Nadine said, it's what you're doing with them during that time. If you like, at our house, we do movie nights. I love movie nights. I love popping popcorn or going to the movies and getting popcorn and doing movie nights. And they love it as well. But I feel like as long as you're present, you're not physically around them, but, on your phone or, doing something else. But I think as long as you're doing things they enjoy, and ask them, what do you want to do? Even if you just have 20 minutes, you have 20 minutes before you have to leave, anything like that's what they're going to remember. That's going to be their highlight of the day. So I would just say, just make it count. Whatever time you have, make it count. You don't have to be around your kids all day, 24 hours a day. Like nobody wants to do that, but yeah.
I like that, Tasha. And someone agreed with you, quality time. So that's very important. And then someone stressed, listen, it's okay that you need a break. Don't feel guilty that you need the support. Don't feel guilty that you need some time to yourself. Drop the kids off at that daycare. They'll get used to the teacher. They'll get used to the other kids, but give yourself some time. So that's what one of someone in the chat said.
Sorry, and Jason already knows if the daycare is open, he's going to be there. But that reminded me of something because Jasmine, she said to me, like it was a few weeks ago, but she was like, you don't really like spending time with me. And I was like, what? I don't like spending time with you. And instead of getting like real defensive, I asked her, I was like, well, why do you say that? And that's what she said. She was like, well, when you're with me, you're usually on Marco Polo or you're on your phone or something else. And I was just like, kids really do pay attention to that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to make a conscious effort to put my phone down. Like, I'm not going to get defensive and be like, well, I have to be around you 24/7. So I actually did listen to her, but I would say that too. Just listen to your kids, see what they want to do and see what actually matters to them.
I like that. That is so good because that enhances that time. If we're doing something that maybe they like to paint with mommy or daddy, maybe they like to read a book, maybe they just want to watch a movie, maybe they just want to play outside for a little bit. So I like that, finding out what they want to do and try to do that activity, because then it will feel like, wow, this time was maximized and I had fun with mommy, I had fun with daddy. So I think that's such a good point, Tasha. All right.
I would also say include them in things that you have to do. That's one thing I had to learn to do, because as a mom, you're always trying to do things around the house, whether it's laundry or cooking or something like. So I've learned to actually take time and include them sometimes. I know that you cook, it's going to be a mess, but you just kind of choose a recipe that's, doesn't have a lot of parts to it, like spaghetti. My kids love that. They'll do that, making pizza or doing that. Or my little one, she likes to help me with the laundry. And truth be told, she's shorter. So instead of me bending over with my It's easier for her to put, and I mean, she feels so accomplished. Wow, mommy, you know, I did it, or I can help. She always asks to help. And so I think that is good time too. And then you're teaching them life skills at that. So
Good. That's a good point. Thank you, Vicky. All right. So something when we discuss motherhood and life, obviously it takes a process to get to motherhood. And these days we have, and I don't want to say these days, it's been happening since back in the Bible and, you know, not just these days, but there are people that, one, many women are experiencing difficulties with getting pregnant, or they get pregnant and then they're not able to maintain that pregnancy. So let's talk about that. One, and you, whichever one, difficulty getting pregnant or, you know, becoming pregnant and not being able to maintain that pregnancy. If anyone has a story that they want to share, or if you just want to share how you believe you can support someone. So give us advice on how to support someone during that time. And that's open to anyone.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Okay, so that was actually one of the struggles that I had. So when Clement and we first got married in 2015, and we had our big wedding in 2016. And I got pregnant like right before our actual like wedding. And so I don't know, maybe it was the stress of the wedding. I really don't know what caused it, but I ended up miscarrying during our wedding. So like I'm dancing and all this stuff, and people didn't know that I was literally like dying on the inside. Like between my outfit changes, I'll just go inside the room and just start breaking down and crying, and try to like wipe my face, redo my makeup, and come back out with a new outfit on. But I would say it's just very important to, everybody deals with that differently. And I would say the biggest thing to do is just making sure that you're being there, and sometimes not even necessarily giving advice. Sometimes I think we have to get used to sometimes even sitting in silence, or just listening, or just being there, but not even saying anything. Because honestly, sometimes there's nothing really right to say. Because I know I sense myself getting frustrated when I would get the super churchy answers. Maybe this is what's best for you, or stuff like that. Or I remember one person, it was actually a leader of mine. She was like, yeah, the reason why you're miscarrying is because you're doing too much. You need to slow down. And I think she thought she was comforting me, but really she was just making me really angry. And so sometimes it's just best to try not to give advice, especially if we don't really understand what they're coming from. And even if we do, even if you went through the same thing, you know, people deal with it differently. So sometimes it's just praying, maybe saying a prayer, maybe just sitting with them, and sometimes not giving advice, because sometimes, you know, your advice isn't wanted. And just really being comforting, but without trying to explain why it happened.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think you brought up some good points about being careful what you say. And if honestly, if it's not inspired by the Lord, maybe you should just be quiet, really, because it could be so offensive to someone. And I know on one of our last discussions, someone said to her, God will give you better. And the person was like, give me better. This was my baby, you know? And so sometimes people, and I believe, honestly, most of the time they really do mean well. But people say, I've heard, I won't even say one of the things that I heard, because, you know, someone had gotten pregnant. They weren't too happy at first, but, and that happens sometimes. That's normal as a woman. You're like, oh, this wasn't the right time. So the person wasn't really happy at that moment. But after that, you know, the love begins to grow and all of that. And then unfortunately, they happen to lose that child. And a person made the comment, oh, I bet you're happy now. And it's like the comments that sometimes people say, it's just mind blowing. But then I believe that for the most part, people mean well, but sometimes it's just good to say, like Nadine said, sit with the person, pray for the person, but sometimes advice, you might just want to leave it alone, leave it alone. So that, I think that's good. That's good, Nadine. That's good.
And I'm also gonna piggyback on myself. So, and also add that sometimes it's also like very important to just make sure that what we're to be cognizant of what we're saying to people, even people who don't have kids, because you may have, you know, I come from a Jamaican family. Clement is Nigerian, so you know we're constantly surrounded by people who are always asking about babies and stuff like that, and so it's important not to ask, because sometimes people are like, when are you guys going to have kids, or you guys are getting older, when? And when you ask those questions, it's uncomfortable, and you never know someone's situation, just refrain from asking those types of questions, especially if you're not super close to that person, because it can pose as a trigger for people. So just making sure that we're refraining from asking those types of questions to young couples or older couples or any couples at all, because that's, you know, their business. So make sure that we're not asking those types of questions.
And I'm glad you said that, because honestly, I'm guilty of that. I've absolutely done that before. And again, as you get older, you learn. And usually now I keep it to those that I'm close with. So sorry, sister-in-law, if you're watching, because I know I just asked you that like a few months ago. But again, just being mindful. And it's true, because not only can it be uncomfortable for someone that is honestly working to get pregnant, but it can be annoying to someone who doesn't want to have kids, but doesn't want to have to say every time, I don't want to have kids, you know? And so I think that's great. It's important to just be mindful of the questions you ask, and don't assume, because the person may not want to have kids, or maybe they're trying and struggling and they're going through a moment, and you're reminding them that, yep, I'm still not pregnant yet. Yeah, it's been 5 years, still not pregnant yet. And so it's just so important to be sensitive to that. And Jasmine said some women may not want kids. Nicole said, right, we cannot assume everyone wants children, and that it can be very triggering. So, oh my gosh, and we have a comedian who said, I'm trying to return my 4 kids. So yes, do not, you know, it's best to avoid asking that question, because you never know what someone is going through. Now, I know I did some talking. Does anyone want to add to that, or add on to what you feel was helpful to a friend, you know, someone else that went through it? Anything else that you want to add? If not, we'll move forward with that.
I would say to be kind to yourself, because I think, like, my personal experience is I've had 2 premature babies. And so women who do have that struggle are not kind to themselves. You tend to feel like you're inadequate, or something is wrong with you, or something like that. And that kind of takes a toll on your mind. And I remember thinking, well, why can't I hold these babies? You know, and I had one at 33 weeks. Because I had a medical issue. And then the next one came at 24 weeks and 2 days. And that was scary, because she was 1 pound, 11.2 ounces when she was born. I could see through her skin. And she literally stayed in the NICU 110 days. And so I really blamed myself for her coming out that way. And the fact that I could not house her. And I mean, I was in labor for 1 week trying to keep her in, and I just could not keep her in. And so I think about the thoughts that I had, and I really had to learn how to be kind to myself, not blame myself or anything like that. And that does take a process. It takes prayer, and to lean on your friends and your support system, you know, whoever you have in your home, sisters or things like that. But I just feel like we as women are not kind to ourselves, because you think, well, my body's supposed to do this, I should be doing this. And that's just not the case. So I would say be kind.
I think that's good, Victoria. Be kind to yourself. because even though this person didn't tell me, the husband was speaking to me about it concerning his wife and telling me about the struggles that she was facing and how it made her feel very inadequate. And then also made her feel like, what if my husband doesn't love me, or is he going to stop loving me? And so there's so much that some people go through when they're having difficulties getting pregnant or maintaining a pregnancy. And so that's why, again, we got to just mind our business and just provide the support and just be careful with what we say, because it's not just the, okay, I'm having a difficulty getting I'm having difficulties, whether it's getting pregnant or maintaining the pregnancy, but then you're having to deal with everything else of the feelings of inadequacy and, well, how does my husband view me? What does his family think? And all of that. And so it can be a lot. So such great advice, ladies. Thank you for that. And let me just make sure I'm not missing
No.
anything.
And I'm just going to add on to that too, like Victoria, with, just being kind to yourself. I had to learn that, like, just to, show myself grace, because, when you get pregnant, you tell the whole world. And then when you miscarry, it's not even something that you feel like you can keep to yourself, because the whole world now knows. So now you have to go around and tell the whole world what happened again. And I think that is also a difficult part, because you can't just sit there, because if they're going to keep asking you, oh, how's the baby doing? So you can't never tell them. And so you kind of have to face that. And so that's one of the things that I had to learn too, just to be kind to myself, because I kept thinking what's going on? Did I clean the house too hard? I know the first time I thought, I was like, oh my gosh, I was cleaning the bathroom. It was because I cleaned the bathroom. That's why it happened. And then, and so I tried to be careful the next time, and then it happened again. And I mean, I ended up miscarrying 4 different times within a 3-year time span. And a lot of my family didn't even know about the 4th time, because I just stopped telling people. And then when I got pregnant the 5th time with Clementine, I didn't tell anybody. But and I just kept it to myself. And I was around 5 months. And of course, you can't hide anything from your mom, especially Jamaican moms. I don't know, they have these little spidey senses. So I remember I was around my mom. I don't remember where we were. I think it was at Tasha's house. But yeah, I was at Tasha's house. And so I was around my mom, and then she grabs me. She goes, "Are you pregnant?" And I'm like, what am I going to say? I can't say no. And then, she's my mom, so she could tell when I'm lying, and I suck at lying, which is why I don't do it. And so that's the only reason why she knew. So she knew at 5 months, didn't tell my sisters until I was at 6 months. And the whole time I'm teaching and everything, and I didn't tell anybody. And what's so interesting is God has an interesting way of letting you know, I got you. And so He would show me different things. First of all, I knew this was going to be the one, because I remember it was November 11th, what was it? 2018, November 11th, 2018. I was driving to church, and Clement was aggravating the crap out of me. So he was aggravating me on the way to church. I was like, turn to church anymore, drop me home. And so he wouldn't turn me around. He just kept driving to church. And so we finally get to church, and the pastor preaches a really amazing sermon. And then he talks about he starts just speaking. I felt like he was speaking to me. And then he talked about giving a sacrificial offering. And typically I'll sit there and I'm try to discern to see if it's, of God. And I started feeling a tug to give this offering. And so I went ahead and took some money out my savings and brought Clement up to the altar with me, gave a sacrificial offering. And then my mom always said, whenever you pray, whenever you give an offering, make sure you attach something to it, like a prayer. And so I sat at home that day on November 11th. And after I gave it, I went home and I attached it to a prayer. And I one of the things I prayed for 3 things, and God answered all 3 things. So I prayed to God that I will have a healthy child. And then 2 other things that I'm not going to get into. So, and so crazy, because a month later, I found out that I was pregnant. I was a month. And so I was oh my gosh. And so that is the initial, how it started. So I'm okay, God, this is this is for real this time. And God did like little things whenever I was feeling discouraged, like whether it was like a dream or something else, he always did like little things to show like, Nadine, I got you. And what's so funny is because I was like teaching and I didn't tell any of my kids. And I had a student come up to me in the hallway, one of my students. It's not like she's like a spirit-filled kid. I mean, she was one of my worst kids. And she came up to me, she's like, Mrs. Embry, I had a dream. I had a dream that this summer, you were holding a baby girl in your hand. And I'm like, that's interesting. Because the day before, I just did, like, nobody even knew I was pregnant. And so for her not to say that, and to say that I was holding a baby girl in my hand when I was only like a few weeks pregnant, and nobody knew, I was like, that's very interesting. And I was like, that's an interesting dream. I'll go away. And so, just kidding, I didn't say that. but it was very interesting that she said that, and her and another student were standing there. And so I just kept it in my head, and I was like, when I finally tell my students, I'm going to make sure that I let her know about her dream. And so this was like in January or something. And so like later on, I finally told my students, when I was 7 months. They did not know. I just wore loose clothes. They were like little whispers. I think Miss Embry's pregnant, but no one actually knew. And so, and I like carried very small. So anywho, I ended up telling all my kids, and they're like, Miss Embry, you really are having a kid this summer. I said, yes, and I'm having a girl. Like that dream that you had, it's real. But God like did little things to show me like, okay, Nadine, I got you. Everything's gonna be okay. And just like little like bits of confirmation throughout. And so, yeah, that's a real wonderful God.
God, I love your story, and thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that, ladies. I know that probably wasn't easy, but thank you for sharing. And one thing that I forgot to mention, and someone may have said it, but I don't know, so I just want to say it again. For any woman that is struggling or has lost, you are not alone, because there's nothing worse than something happening to you and you feeling like you're alone. And so for whoever may be going through a difficult time, just remember that you are not alone, and that God is with you. And so and it's hard to feel that way, especially when you've lost, or you've lost multiple times, or you can't even get pregnant. It's like, well, you're telling me that, but is he really? Because he knows my heart and I still haven't had my child. But just know that God is with you, and just don't lose hope. Don't give up on God, and just continue to trust God and believe in God, and he's there with you. And that's all I can say, because I'm going to take the advice that everyone says and don't give any advice, but just know that God is with you and that you're not alone. All right, so now that we've talked about that, and that's heavy, and I hate to stay in the heavy lane, but I feel like it's important to discuss because we hear it so much and we know it's so real. Postpartum depression. I think everyone has heard of that terminology by now. It's a very real thing. There's so many women that have dealt with that. So I don't know if any of you have experienced it, or if you know someone that experienced it, and if you would like to share about your experience, or how do you believe we can be better support to those that may be dealing with postpartum depression. And this is for anyone. And if not, then you could just give it advice, or, for anyone. And also,
Sorry, I hate awkward silences, but I personally didn't deal with it. Like I told y'all about my story. So once Clementine finally came here, I was like, I finally have, like, holding her up like the Lion King. So it was like a little different for me. So I just don't want to speak on it. I know a lot of people who have dealt with it. But I'll pass it to you, Tasha. I see you unmuted.
So I don't. Are you asking for advice for people who are experiencing,
or if you've had your own personal experience? So either one, because I know that we all have friends that are mothers, and so how can we better support someone that is going through a difficult time? And even in the chat, if you could drop it in the chat, if you feel like you've been through it at one moment, or someone who has, how can we support someone who is in that moment currently? Okay. Tasha, go ahead. I don't know if you were going to say something.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to see if there were any comments. I mean, I would just say how we said before, to just kind of rely on your support system. I think the main thing for me, I think with Jasmine too, was kind of fine. With Jace, I went through a divorce as I was pregnant. And so once he actually got here, I can't even lie, like I was not excited about him. I was not excited about life. Like it was just a lot going on all at once. And so I think what helped me get through is that I knew I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone, you know, even though I was technically, you know, like a single mom, like I wasn't actually alone. And obviously I had God, you know, but also I had, you know, human beings, like I had real people who were there to support and help. And I think that's like the most helpful thing, because I do know a lot of times when we're experiencing like depression or really, really low times, you don't want to be around people. Like you don't want to be around people, but sometimes that's really what you need. And I had people who would just, you know, stop by or would just come and help out or, you know, do whatever they could or just call just to see how you were doing. I think the little things honestly just mean a lot. And I think that's it. I don't know. I'd be curious to see what other people have to say as well.
I think that's good. Someone said, keep an open mind towards that person and ask them how you can help, because sometimes we're so busy trying to figure it out and solve it. This is how I need to help them. But ask them, how can I help you? How can I be there for you? Those are two good questions. How can I help you? How can I be there for you? Because then you can really help to meet that person where they're at and help to provide them with the comfort that they need. They may just say, just sit next to me, let's watch a movie. They may say, I want to go out for an appetizer, you know, whatever the case is, but just asking them, how can I help you through this moment? And then, like you said, checking in on your friends, especially those that you know have experienced loss or recently had a baby, because you never know. Sometimes, I don't know, do you think it's embarrassing? I don't know. Have you ever had a friend that has told you, you know, I didn't really want to share that I was depressed because I was a little embarrassed, or I just didn't want to talk about it? I don't know, because it could be that too. And so that's why it's important to check in, because maybe someone doesn't feel comfortable sharing their feelings, like, I'm really feeling low. I thought I'd be happy after my baby, but I really am not happy. I have this child, but I'm not happy. I don't feel like holding this child. I don't feel like being a mom. And so I think having to express those things are difficult. One, because some people may not want to feel like, oh my gosh, they're going to think I'm crazy, or they may judge me. And so sometimes I think it's hard for someone to express themselves and express those feelings. And so definitely just checking in, like you said, and then asking them, how can I help you? How can I support you? And then someone in the chat said, encouraging new moms to be open to sharing how they feel. And then someone said, some women don't feel like themselves after having kids, so doing things that they used to do help. So for instance, they said working out. So sometimes, you know, just being with them, let's do something that you would do before. Let's have you feel a little normal. Sometimes doing an activity that you were able to do prior to being pregnant can be of help as well. And so since we're kind of on this topic, I think this is a good segue into mental health and life and motherhood. Like, how can we make sure that we are taking care of ourselves? So as a mother, how can you make sure that you're taking care of your physical and your mental and your spiritual? So what are some of the tactics that you have used? Like what have you used to help maintain your mental, your physical, your spiritual? What have you done? And then what, if you have any advice that you decide you want to give, then you could do that as well.
I can go ahead and start with that, because I make sure I get me time in. Like Victoria was saying, how you have to have your time at the beginning, like the morning, start your day off. I do that as well. And I also have to have mine at night. So my kids know that once they're in the bed, they do not come out. Like that is my me time. That is when, you know, sometimes it's me praying. Sometimes it's me just relaxing. Sometimes it's me like literally just crying, like whatever it is, you guys need to be gone because that's my time, you know. And in addition to that, like I know somebody was talking about you got to bring your kids wherever you go. I did start going because for the longest I would work out at home, I work out in my apartment gym because I kind of use my kids as a crutch. I was like, oh, I got kids, so I can't really go to the gym. I found a gym that accepts kids. So I'm like, look, I have to get myself back in shape. Like, you guys ruined my six pack. Like, I have to get myself back in shape. So now, like, Jasmine hates coming with me to the gym, but I'm like, you're gonna go, you're gonna sit in that little kitty room, and you guys are gonna play with those little kitty toys so I can get my workout in. And I'm gonna do that like as many times a week as I can. And then I schedule, like, I know Nadine was saying she don't get her nails done. I get my nails done religiously. I schedule my monthly massages. I schedule my therapy appointments. I started working from home 1 day a week. So I'm like, that's 1 day when I'm just like at home and they're not there, you know? So even though I'm still working, the kids aren't there. So it makes me feel like, you know, at least I have the house to myself 1 day a week. So those are the little ways I started. And then also church. Like, I feel like spiritually, like, that was important for me too. Because even when I moved to Jacksonville, like, we visited over 10 churches and just couldn't find one that I just really wanted to be at. And I had to have one that had children's church. And a lot of them didn't have children's church for some reason. But even at our current church now, like, that was one of the main things. I was like, I need something that has children's church, but Jasmine would ask if she can come with me in the big church. And I'm like, no, like, you're not going to be asking me questions. You know, what is he talking about? Or talking to me, like, that's my me time. Like, when I go to church, you go into, you know, the middle school classroom, and I want to be able to hear from God without any distractions. And then I also have my daily devotion time too. But I literally like schedule out time, and it's usually first thing in the morning or late at night. And that's just me time when the kids are just not allowed. Like, that's it.
So check me time. Anyone else? How do you maintain your sanity? Because I know sometimes these kids can stress you out. I have friends, so I know, y'all. I know. I hear them like, girl, come get this child, or I'm gonna ship them to you. So, you know, I've heard a little bit of all of that. And so how do you maintain that sanity?
Well, I will say number one, melatonin, and I'm just kidding. Oh, I'm not.
No, you're not.
That girl don't like to sleep. No, but seriously, we don't use melatonin anymore. But at one point, I had to give her some melatonin because she was up past. I tried to do what Tasha did. Like, okay, you know, after 9 o'clock is me time. But with her, it was starting to get to like 10, 11, 12, 1. And once it started getting to 2, I'm like, melatonin. But now she's on a schedule. So I say, just, I know I said this like multiple times, but being very intentional. Like, so being not just intentional about the time I'm spending with her, but being intentional about the time I'm spending with myself. And also with Clement too. And so, like, even in my schedule, I put out time that I need to eat, like time that I'm gonna go to sleep. I actually have to write that out, because if I don't, I just get so caught up. I could get caught up in doing her sight words or get caught up in something else. And then next thing you know, I don't have enough me time, or I don't have time to get work done. So just having like a strict balance, and taking time to read. Like, I'm about to start TD Jake's book, Disruptive Thinking. And just watching, like, sometimes watching TV, that's my form of relaxation. Sometimes just sitting and taking a nice little bubble bath and just like putting in my my headphones, and just blocking the world out. And I don't care what's happening around the house, but just really being very intentional about not just time I'm spending with them, but also time that I'm getting to myself too.
I love that. Thank you.
I love all of those. Let me say, Natasha, I want to be like you when I grow up. I loved all your points as well. I got to get there, girl. Like, and I would say I begin with Nadine scheduling. That is so important to like write it out. I think people don't think you should do like writing out things, but to actually see them, to know that, okay, this time is designated and that you can be intentional. And I would say, sit on somebody's couch. Okay. I don't understand why, as a mother, you should have a therapist. That is just my thing. I know there can be a stigma in the Black community sometimes. Oh, she crazy. Or, you know what I mean? Like, to go, that is not it. You need to be sitting on someone's couch because it's so important to be able to have a person who's non-biased, who doesn't see you every day, who can give you tools and stuff. That's what my therapist did, to give me tools of how to cope with difficult challenges, being a mother, being a wife. And one thing she actually prescribed is that I take a trip every 3 to 4 months, because what I experience, I don't know if anybody else, is burnout, like mommy burnout. That is like one of the worst feelings. Like, it is mentally draining, and you really have to be mindful of that. I always think about the mind as like pickup sticks. So my mama used to say this all the time. So I ain't gonna let nobody run me crazy. You are your sister. Like, and when she would say that, I was like, mama, ain't nobody trying to run you crazy. But listen, I'm there. Like, I am not gonna let anybody run me crazy. And so, to say that, but when I get away from my trips, I go with my girls, and it gives me time, because I used to have a lot of fun in college with my friends who would go to different things. You don't get to do that, that often, just being me. And sometimes to be a break. Yes, you're going to call your children, FaceTime them, say goodnight, but just having the time to be yourself. We understand that you're a mom, a wife, and all of these roles, but I always go back to that, because that's something I need to learn. So schedule trips for yourself, because then you get away and you don't have to be tethered to always, doing your routine that you have.
I like that. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I saw something online that said, like, my 2 favorite things are like being with my kids and not being with my kids. And that's true. It's like, yeah, I do enjoy the time I spend with my kids. I enjoy it. But when I'm not with my kids and I take vacations away from my kids, I enjoy that too. So I do think that's definitely important. Time away from the kids is necessary. And somebody wrote that, I think, like, a lot of us are hesitant, like, especially in the world we live in now, we're very cautious about who we leave our kids with, as we should be. So I think that's important, is finding somebody we trust who can take the kids for us sometimes, so that we can get a break, go on a date night, with your husband or whatever. Just do something for you, or go on a date night by yourself, like just something away from your kids. So I do think that's important.
All good stuff. All good stuff. And just a lot of people agreeing in the chat. Definitely need to detach is what I see. Someone saying, don't allow yourself to feel guilty from taking some time for yourself. And let's see. And someone said, definitely take your breaks, hand them off to the spouse, hand them off to a family member, hand them off to a friend, send them to daycare, but get your time in. And then I like what you said, the stigma with therapy. Yes, I do believe that it's still there, but I feel like the walls are being broken down in that slowly. So I do feel like the stigma is still there, but I feel like more people understand the importance of speaking with someone, like you said, that is unbiased. They can give you just an unbiased opinion, or their feedback, I should say. And so I think that is very good. Someone said, look, Sister Donnelly, look after yourself first, otherwise you won't be good for anyone else. So that is so true. That is so important, because if you run yourself ragged, get sick, God forbid, end up in a mental hospital, then there's no way you could take care of those kids anyway. So just make sure that you are definitely making time to take care of yourself. So that's such a good.
And sleep.
Oh yeah, sleep. Oh, my favorite thing to do, take naps when I can. Yes, my Sunday nap is so important to me. So yes, if you're able to, I'm sorry for the mothers that it's a little challenging to do so, but if you can, enjoy your little nap. All right, so just a couple more questions, because this is something that a lot of mothers have to deal with, and it's navigating a single parent household. And then not only that, but then some have to deal with a parent that's not involved. So one, how do you deal with that? And we'll start there, because I kind of have multiple questions on that, but let's start there. How do you navigate that? And what advice would you give to someone dealing with that, and then dealing with the issues of not having someone who is as supportive as they should, or just not supportive at all?
Okay, I can start. I feel like I'm basically an expert at this. No, but seriously, so Okay, so let's start with this. So, of course, I'm a single mom, but I always tell people like I'm a mom who's single because I feel like me being a mom comes first. And I've been a mom who was single. I've been a mom who was married. I've been a mom who was divorced. I've been a mom who was dating. And I feel like none of those phases at no points, of time in my life did that ever change who I was for my kids. Like I'm always going to be there. I'm always going to be going on the field trips, making sure I'm present for them. So I definitely think it's harder. And obviously it's really unorthodox because, that's not the way God intended it to be. But, at the end of the day, I've lived my life. And I know there's a lot of people out there who, are basically in the same position. And I think, as you were saying before about the support system, it's important to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. And you're not alone, one, because I know there's days where I'm just really, I just feel really weak, or I'm just like, the days you just don't want to be bothered. You really don't want to be bothered. It's kind of like, I don't have a choice. I can't be like, go to your daddy. It's just like, I have to be here. So even when I feel like I'm not even myself that day, I still have to be present for them. And I know somebody was saying, you have to be there for yourself in order to be there for them. But even on the days when I don't feel like myself, like I still have to be there. So I think that was probably is one of the hardest things about being a mom who is single. And even like just navigating certain things like drop off, pick up. Like I get to work late almost every single day because I got to do drop off, and then I'm leaving early because I got to do pick up. So I think it's feeling inadequate like that because I can't work the hours that a lot of people, are able to work. Like I have to just do kind of what works for me at this point in time. But I know it's temporary. So, I'm just doing kind of what I can do right now. And like even when like I was on Wheel of Fortune last year, and I think, oh yeah, Victoria, I don't think Victoria knew, but yeah, I was like on Wheel of Fortune, and it was exciting, but they gave you like such a quick turnaround. So it's like they let you know like 10 days before that you had to be there, and it was during the weekdays. And anybody who knows me knows my kids go to school every single day. Like we're perfect attendance household over there. So I was just like, I got to figure out how to get my kids to school anyways. Like I was just like on my way to the airport trying to figure this out. And I'm like crying because I can't figure it out. And then Nadine jumps in, and Dean's like, all right, we'll figure this out. And then she gets her husband involved, and Clement's like, all right, we got this. And then Jason's aunt is like, we got this. And honestly, it was just like the best feeling ever because it can really feel just so lonely sometimes, but it's really good to know that obviously, God is there with you, but you also have really, real human beings who are just like a really good support system for you and there for your kids. So I think that's important. And one of the hardest things for me, I think mentally, is just like the statistics, like just knowing, all the statistics that come along, like it's just, actual facts that come along with kids who grow up in single parent households. And I think just seeing that all the time, like I feel like there's a lot more pressure on me because I feel like I have to make sure like my daughter is not a teenage mom. Like I have to make sure my son never goes to jail. Like I just feel like there's just a lot more pressure because I know there's things like there's odds stacked against them because of the decisions I made. So I think that's probably one of the most difficult things. But anybody else who is single out there, like just know that you're not by yourself. You're not by yourself.
I love that. You're not alone, single moms. And there's others that understand the struggle. We understand what it's like to try to budget to the T and still feel like, oh my God, I still don't know if I can pay this bill. And so there's many others that are feeling, the strain, and they understand that struggle. So just know that there are other people who understand, and just continue to be the best mother that you can be. And then we said it earlier on in the chat, give yourself some grace. And then someone said, God will give you the strength, the money, the time, the people, the food, all of it. And so just remain faithful to God, because God will have someone just drop something in your little, or call you up and say, Sasha, you look like you want to give a testimony.
Yes, I was gonna say he always provides. He always provides. Like, and there's so many instances, but like even as I'm talking, like they're just like coming to me. Like I just remember one time I was outside of Publix with Jace, and I don't know if this lady just felt sorry for me or what, but I literally anybody who knows me knows I budget to the T when it comes to groceries because I just can't overspend. Like my card's gonna get declined, so I budget to the T when I go grocery shopping. But anyways, like I remember I was just carrying Jace on my chest, and she was just like, I forgot what she said, but she like handed me a $20 bill, and it was just what I needed. I don't remember why, but I just remember it was just what I needed at that time. Another time, like I went to church, and didn't have groceries, was trying to figure out how I was going to get groceries for the week. And a lady came up to me, and I sent her a text message a few months ago, like just reminding her of it. But she came up to me and she was like, I'm going to take you grocery shopping after church. Now, she's never done that before. Never done that before. And then, another time, like I remember Jace's daycare tried to take money out of my account. Couldn't get it because it wasn't in there. And then literally it was just like, they sent me a text message maybe 2 days after they tried and said, we tried to get this money out. The money wasn't in there. We're going to charge you an NSF fee, whatever. The same day I got that text message, somebody sent me the exact amount I needed for his daycare. Like, I promise you, it just happens all the time. Like, nobody can tell me that there's not a God or that he's not looking out for me or for his children, because he does it every single time, like without fail. So anyways, God's a
God
prayer.
is so good. Thank God that he's an on-time God, and thank God that he comes through, because honestly, even though you're giving your story as a mother who is single, there are 2-parent households that are experiencing that same struggle where they're budgeting to the T and still can't make ends meet. And so we're praying for those households, and just remain faithful to God, trust God, and he will come through. And so so important. And then Jasmine, she said something, we're gonna touch on this, and then one question, and then we're gonna wrap up, one more question. But Jasmine said something so good, because I spoke about, the single parent household, and she said one support system is important, and we've been talking about that all night. But then learning how to manage resentment towards the absent parent, which I feel is such a good point, because I can't speak for everyone, but I think during certain situations, because I don't want to speak like I know, but based on what others have expressed to me, it's not even the fact that, no, we don't want that person in our lives, but I'm angry because you're choosing not to be in my child's life, in our child's life, which is probably the most hurtful part, because you see their hurt, you see their tears, you see their frustration, you're the ones with them when they're having their little emotional roller coaster and everything. And so you're the one seeing that and having to deal with that. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up, Jasmine. And then managing what you say about the absent parent, because that could be a struggle too. When you see your child crying, or where is this person? You just want to say that good for nothing blank is God, we don't want him, and he's over there or something, good for nothing protoplasm, we may say. I don't know what we would say, but so, and so just being mindful that, okay, say what you got to say, go in the room and talk bad about him if you need to, but just make sure when you get back in front of your child, just be very careful of that. So that was a good point. But again, we're praying for those who are having to see their children hurt, because we're not naive. We know that this is not just a in the moment thing. We know that a lot of times that carries on into their adulthood. And I've had I worked with someone who, she told me this woman was in her 40s, and she was like, I'm so angry. She said, I'm so angry and I hate this person. And she was just expressing the anger to me because she had to deal with that. And so we're with you, we support you, and we're praying for you. All right, so now can we breathe? This is, yeah, I know it's heavy, it's heavy. So so then let's end on, like, not saying that these were bad notes, because honestly, people need to hear this. I mean, there's so many people experiencing this, so they need to hear all of this. So let's end with the last and final question. What's the best part about being a mom? What brings you joy when it comes to motherhood? What brings you that joy and that happiness? What do you love most about being a mother? And Nadine, I'm gonna let you start.
Okay. Honestly, I just love it all. I remember when I had Clementine, or like I was still pregnant, but I was like laying in the hospital room and Clement was getting the video. And I was like, Clementine, I'm never going to take you for granted. And I always keep that in my head, that I'll never take her for granted, no matter whether she's jumping on the bed upstairs and I'm having a meeting and it sounds like construction's going on outside, or she's riding her car down the stairs, or throwing her teddies down the staircase, whatever she's doing. It's like, I can't even fully get mad, because it's like, this is what I prayed for. This is what I prayed for. And I just love it. I can't even like specify a specific thing that I just like about it. It's just her mere like presence, especially like when she wakes up next to me. Yes, sometimes I do let her sleep in my bed. Like, I actually love it. But like sometimes when she like sleeps next to me and I wake up next to her, something about waking up next to them and it just feels like, oh my gosh, there's a live human being next to me. But it's just, I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful. And that gratefulness, even though she's about to be 4, it still hasn't gone away. I'm just grateful for her, and just her mere existence is the best part of motherhood, that she's alive and kicking and healthy. And, every time she's running up and down the hallway, it's just a reminder that, God answered my prayers. So.
Oh, Vicky, what's the best part about being a mommy?
Oh my goodness. They are joy. They are literally joy. One of the things my kids do, they make me laugh. And it is a privilege to raise and love them, and to see like these personalities that they have, and the fact that they love me no matter what. And they think that I'm just like this cool, one of the coolest people in the world. And it fascinates me because I don't think of myself that way, but they are just joy for me. And they tell me a lot of, Mommy, you're the best mommy in the whole world. Like, what? Like, it literally gets me. And, I think about that because my daughter, I told you the other day, she actually did die. For a couple seconds, they bagged her and brought her to life. And like my son coming out early, and to see them, like they're only 4 and 8, but I've seen them, go through things at birth, and, even little things they struggle. But it's like a privilege just to, be there and watch them grow and just have them just give you love. So I think that's for me. I'm like, the Lord knew what he was doing. It's balanced, You may have some no limit soldier moments with them. You remember me like, but it balances out the love that they give you. And, just, I don't know. That's just for me. It's just thinking about them like that.
And I'm gonna pause really quick, Tasha. I'll give you a chance, but so Dr. Sparks, oh Lord, Dr. Sparks said, I prayed for these little gremlins. So she is happy. She said, motherhood is the best hood. And then Sister Anderson said, I love that God decided to bless and give me with 2 beautiful human beings. And so we just see that, those that are in the chat are just grateful for their children. So Tasha, take us away. What do you love most about motherhood?
So I love the hugs. That's like my favorite part of the day, the hugs and the I love you, I love yous. And I love just watching them grow. Like I love watching them go through each phase of their life and just watching them mature. And with that, like something I've learned, because I know like with Jasmine, like she's gotten to the preteen age where, she acts like me and I don't like it. And, she's talking like me and I don't like it. And so I remember I used to say like, oh my gosh, I miss when you were 6. Like, oh my gosh, I used to miss when you were this cute age. Like, you're not fun anymore. And I used to say that all the time, not really thinking about the effect it had on her. But I remember I got so convicted because I was like, she's never going to be 6 again. Like, she's never going to be 6 again. She's never going to be that cute little 4-year-old again. Like, she's growing. And as she grows, you're just going to have to learn how to love her differently through each stage of her life. So I think watching them grow and just continuing to learn them, because they change every single day. That's definitely my favorite part. And just, I think having a reason, like, every time I wake up, I'm like, okay, well, I have a reason. I know why I'm going to work. I know why I'm doing this. They're like my little motivations, but that's my favorite part of motherhood.
I love that. And someone said, sometimes God uses our children to save our lives. and Uplifted Heart said, my mom was custom made for me. I don't think any other mother would be able to handle me. So that is hilarious. And I feel the same way. I feel so, my mother, I don't care, don't argue with me. My mother's the best mom ever. You know, she's just, I just love her. She's the best. She's so loving. She's so prayerful. She's such a good example. She's like, check, check, check. If you create a list, she's going to check off everything good. So she's just the best. So shout out to Violet Thomas, the best mother in the world. And shout out to my second mommy, Yulette Williams. Shout out to my second mommy. So yes, mothers are amazing. And so ladies, I just want to thank you for this night. Thank you for being so vulnerable. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing. And you should be proud of yourselves. Honestly, if you never felt proud of yourselves before, I hope talking through the night that you picked up pieces and it helped you to realize that, you know what, it's okay. I'm giving myself grace. I'm doing the best I can. And I am rocking this motherhood. So keep it up. We appreciate mothers like you that care for your children and support your children and are good examples to your children, and just have that special love for your children. And so just thank you so much for what you're doing. And you guys should really be proud of yourselves. And so we're gonna go ahead and close out in prayer. So I wanna pray, you know, I gotta pray for somebody. And I wanna pray for mothers that may be going through a difficult time, or they feel alone, or that, you know, they're having other issues outside, or maybe they're struggling to make ends meet. So I'm just going to say a prayer for those mothers, and then we're going to go ahead and close out. And so bow your heads, close your eyes. I'm joking, you don't have to bow your heads. But God, we just thank you for your goodness. We thank you for your mercy. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for this night. We thank you for these ladies. We thank you, Father God, for how you have strengthened them, even in their lowest moments where they felt like they couldn't do it, even in those moments where they maybe even felt like, God, where are you? Thank you, Father God, that you kept them, that you strengthened them, that you've sustained them, that you've comforted them, that you've not allowed them to give up. And God, I'm asking that you will touch mothers who are in their valley season, where they are so discouraged, they feel hopeless, they feel down, they feel like they are lacking and they're insufficient, or they're just struggling to make ends meet. God, you know, whatever it is, God, we're praying for those mothers, and we're praying that you will comfort them, that you'll grant them strength, that you will wrap your arms around them, that they will feel your literal presence of peace surrounding them, Father God. And your word reminds us, Lord God, that you give peace that surpasses understanding. So grant them the peace. God, your word says that your strength is made perfect in our weakness. Your word also reminds us that blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. And so even those who are struggling with becoming pregnant, or those who became pregnant, but that they lost children, God, I'm asking that you will just comfort them, that you'll grant them peace and strength, that you will just surround their house with your presence during this time, and that you'll remind them that you're with them, that you'll remind them that they're not being punished, that you'll remind them that you love them, Father God, that you'll remind them that they can lean on you, and that you're their heavenly Father, and that you seek to be their comfort and their peace and their strength. And God, your word reminds us that you are near to the brokenhearted, and that you bind up the crushed, that you save the crushed in spirit. And so God, I'm asking that you will just remind them of those words, that you will be there with them, that you'll never leave them, that you'll never forsake them. And so God, I'm asking that they will come out of this moment feeling encouraged and inspired and motivated and strengthened, and that their spirits will feel uplifted. And so God, I just thank you for doing it. Thank you for strengthening and providing. God, please provide for those mothers who currently right now are saying, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill. I don't know how I'm going to feed my children tomorrow. God, I'm asking that you will provide for them, that you will open doors for them, that you'll provide, whether it's the right job or the right opportunity, or that you will send someone to be a blessing to them, but that you will make a way, Father God. And so I thank you, and I give you praise for doing it. Thank you for all those that are watching. God, I'm asking that you will bless them, and that you will be with them, that you'll cover us all. And we give you thanks and praise for doing it in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So Thank you, ladies. Thank you, everyone, for joining the discussion. Again, if you haven't done so already, please like, please share. And if you're not following Fountainside Church of God in Christ, not Church of God in Christ, Church of God, sorry, my husband looked at me like, what? Make sure that you follow our church. And we just thank you for your support. God bless you all. Bye, everyone.